In China, there is a saying, kill the chicken to warn the monkeys. It is when you use someone as an example, often by handing out a strict punishment, to demonstrate authority and ensure others fall in line. And in this case of our Black Myth game, it is more killing the monkey to warn the Yaoguais. For this video, let's do a deep dive on how Wukong's death set the main storyline of Black Myth Wukong. Let's time one down, the big five that carried out Wukong's death. Building on top of the original novel material, the game presented some rich stories of different characters as they encountered us, the Destined One. Out of all the encounters, the bosses of each chapter, being integral parts of the main story, defined the tone of each of the story arcs. By now, content summarizing the storyline for each of them is all over different platforms, so we'll skip those for now and go deeper to the Yaoguai Kings and the ideas they each present. All five witnessed and partook in the demise of Wukong for his disobedience of the current order. All five also heard what Wukong said to the Bull King at the last moment of his life, and took their own interpretations for a chance at a new life. What makes this game so great is how it basically conveyed through the stories of these Yaoguai Kings how Wukong's master plan was forced out. Before we proceed, we just need to get a few important concepts clarified. Firstly, Buddhism and Taoism as presented in Chinese folklores are not meant to be taken the same way as the religions. In Journey to the West, they are used as the symbol of higher powers in society. Do not get hung up on looking for historical or religious conformity. Secondly, as our goal is to try to get as close to the Chinese cultural references as possible, I will be referring to everyone in their Chinese names, unless I found a translation that is in the Black Myth game. I would drop in the name references where I feel there may be confusion. In your mind, please try to simply refer to them as their Chinese names, as referencing them back to the actual religious figures would not be very helpful. Thirdly, due to the nature of the Chinese folklore being a blend of the different religions, myths, and local legends, etc., I will use the Chinese word 神仙 as a collective term to refer to the higher beings that is above the mortal realm. Due to its wide range of use over the millennia in different literature environments, the definition of what qualifies as a 神仙 is less strictly defined in Chinese. For our Journey to the West and Black Myth universe, I will use this term to collectively refer to the heavenly beings either in Celestial Court or Western Paradise. Now, let's break down the bosses one by one with a graphical visual aid, with the Y coordinate being a scale of how rebellious their new approach to life was, and X being how forced they were to come to their decision. We will run through each of the five Yaoguai Kings who were given a relic and look at simply how difficult it is to survive when your world comes down on you. As a reference, we will first put Wukong here. The game's main storyline and in-game material straight up set an example if you try to go against the rules of the hierarchy. When Wukong realized that the nature of holding a heavenly fruition position is inherently to further exploit the solidified social classes, he returned to Mount Huaguo as the great sage equaling heaven, not the victorious fighting Buddha, and were met with the iron hammer of the upper class. As witnesses of the end of Wukong, the five other Yaoguais who participated in this extermination had to rethink their future on how to maintain their own spot in this world and avoid a similar fate. Chapter 1 mainly revolves around the original story of Elder Jinchi and discusses how the seed of greed grows to alter our choices. The final boss, the Black Wind King, or the Black Bear Guai, was a friend of Jinchi since Jinchi was young. He helped Jinchi, a mere human, to live up to 270 years old, and Jinchi helped him with Buddhist education. Their friendship solidified with their mutual growth of greed and wealth. Although we have been mostly educated to judge a friendship based on exchange of personal gains, you cannot really blame someone for being interested in wealth. Not noble, but understandable. Black Wind is your everyday ordinary guy. He just happened to be in the right place, under the right master, at the right time. He never had a noble cause, nor did he ever felt he needed one. He wanted to complete his cultivation and simply remove his headband. Yet, when directed to participate in the extermination of Wukong, supposedly a good chance to remove his headband, his first reaction was, to risk one's life just to remove a headband is not worth it. He believed by rebuilding the Guanyin temple and restoring the previous order, his master Guanyin would simply grant him what he wanted. He knew his limits, and he immediately decided to stay within it. With the power of Wukong, he revived his old friends and attracted incense back to the temple he rebuilt. Staying in line was his core approach. Do as I was told by my master felt like a totally viable way of life. Black Wind never took any time to get any inspiration from Wukong's ending. Black Wind Mountain was his comfort zone. He was here before Wukong. He came back here upon release from Guanyin. Black Wind's destiny went full circle. As he returned the route to the Destined One, he gladly went back to serve under Guanyin again. He survived, while now fully surrendered to the control that has always shadowed him. This is what the Shenxian wanted Wukong to be. Live out his life as a so-called Buddha, succumbing to the eternal control from the higher order. Chapter 2 has, in my opinion, the most remarkable story of the game. It brutally exposed the conspiracy of Lingji in the effort to spread influence, and Yellow Wind's approach to his newly gained freedom. Unlike the bear, he saw in Wukong that as long as you are a Yaoguai, you will be disposed of, sooner or later. He believed that the only way out is to become a Buddha. And the only way to become a Buddha is to take another one's place of worship. Before the Destined One showed up, he had already once blurred the boundary of Yaoguai and Buddha when humans worshipped rats upon the defeat of the bug Fuban. When Buddha brought punishment to the people, and Yaoguai and humans started to converge, he came to the realization that Buddhas are not objectively divine. Or superior. Yaoguai and Buddha could be interchangeable, and we know that because Wukong made the leap. Yellow Wind's first step was to trick and take Lingji's head to try to transmute the relic, aiming to achieve the power matching the victorious fighting Buddha. Quoting Winston Churchill, history is written by the victors. When a Yaoguai defeats a Buddha, Yellow Wind believes the winner gets to define who is Buddha. However, he underestimated the importance of a sustainable system. He focused so much on his own development, but overlooked that the power brought by the ear of Wukong was not his to begin with. While Wukong possessed all six and still met his death at the will of the higher order, what chance did Yellow Wind ever have to achieve his ambition? He never actually got closer with all the efforts he put in. Just like Wukong, the power of one was never enough. To overthrow a current order, you would at least need an order of your own. Yellow Wind learned this the hard way, despite Wukong already explaining this realization before his death. After all, the only reason Yellow Wind has gotten this far was that he was never enough of a threat. In the original novel, he was a disciple of Mile, the Maitreya Buddha. He originally worked under Maitreya in a position called the Qing ringer. Qing was originally a type of container, which evolved eventually into an instrument used very specifically in Buddhist activities in China. On the day when Maitreya left for a ceremony, Yellowbrow stole the golden symbols and the seed sack from Maitreya, and his Qing stick became a mace. All three can be seen in our game, by the way. It was described that both the symbols and the sack had the power of softening one's physical and mental strength, and his mace had a similar shifting capability to the Jinggu Bang. Yellowbrow is different. He is not a Yaoguai. He is a Buddhist disciple and believes that a Yaoguai like Wukong is always meant to be suppressed. Yet, in his one encounter with Jin Chanzi and Wukong, he lost. He learned his lesson in Black Myth and started his own order. From the naming of his 4 new students to specifically corrupting and recruiting all that helped Wukong back then as subordinates, Yellowbrow needs a win to prove that opposing the Buddha is the right way. In the original story, Yellowbrow wanted to take Tang Monk's place to the journey. In the Black Myth universe hundreds of years later, Yellowbrow now wants to replace Ru Lai Why bet on the sutra when one oneself can be a Buddha? Why try to win someone else's game if you can be the rule maker? Here, the original Mandarin line actually reads, "Why believe in the BS Rulai? I'd rather do it myself." This is where Yellowbrow chimes in with his philosophy. If the game is rigged, then why wait for the Buddha to decide your next cycle? Why wait at all? Why bother with the Buddha at all? If all of the Buddha's glory is just an image to worship to, what makes any difference between Yellowbrow and Rulai? To replace Rulai, he created a self-owned New West along with the same old treasures from Mile and the new power of Wukong's nose. How or why he got his hands back on the same magical weapons back from Mile is up for interpretation, whether he actually stole them again or Mile simply let him have them. Either way, he successfully used them to replicate Rulai's approach in his small thunderclap monastery. In fact, he succeeded on his plan, but got stuck on one final problem. The power disparity between a local following and the current standard of the world is still too large. Let it be the new Thunderclap Temple or Mount Huaguo. Even when you have achieved a complete new order with a solidified following, the sheer might of the current order is still too big a mountain to climb. The Keeper, Mile, even Rulai all had their eyes on him already. All it took was an arrangement for the Destined One and Ba Jie to come to the New West, and again he was taken down, ultimately closing the door on his ambition. Okay, his name got really long after translation. I'll just call him 100 Eye from this point on. Chapter 4 had a special way of storytelling. The gameplay directs us towards obtaining the tongue of Wukong from the Violet Spider, while walking us through the romance between Ba Jie and the Violet Spider. Myself included, on first playthrough, overlooked the actual underlying storyline on Wukong's revolution. Upon the completion of Wukong's extermination, the internal clear-out has evidently already begun for anyone that has taken the side with Wukong before. 100 Eye chose the path to be the enforcer on this. If Wukong's death has proven that being a Yaoguai has no escape, I might as well just be the best dog the Celestial Court has ever seen. Pilan Po needs to go? I'll get rid of her. His son Dawnstar also? I'll turn him into the Dusk Veil. 100 Eye wanted a protective mantle by willingly do all the dirty work that the Celestial Court wanted him to do. But ironically, the way he did it was to kill the Dawnstar who has already been wearing such a mantle. As the real-life representation of how a Celestial falls to a Yaoguai, the fate of the Dusk Veil is the exact representation of 100 Eye's outcome. He chose to kneel down to seek a lifeline, only to see in Dusk Veil's fate that no matter how much he does for the Shenxian, nobody helps anyone to stay afloat. He then had a change of heart and put in a last struggle to become Wukong himself by taking all of Wukong's roots so he might have shot of getting out of the circle of suppression. Pathetically, his realization to revolt comes after basing his entire life on the might of the Shenxian to save him, as he starts the fight by saying getting all relics to free him from Kunlun's reign. Upon his defeat, he cried out to Grandmaster to save him in his last desperate call. Even he himself knows, after all his opportunistic acts, nobody is coming for him now. Differing to the other four, we never actually fought with the Bull King as the Destined One, for good reasons too, given his situation. He is, however, at the center of Chapter 5's story. As an important figure in the original novel, his story in Black Myth might be the most relatable to everyone. Wukong said he's never made a right choice. The fact of the matter is, his biggest weakness has always been that he has always had something to lose that he greatly cares for. He's too afraid of losing everything. Every seemingly obvious choice has pushed him into a worse and worse irreversible situation. Maybe he didn't choose the wrong option, but rather the obviously right options set him up for a life of tragedy. He was the vowed brother to Wukong, yet after participating in the havoc of the Celestial Palace, Wukong got locked up under the mountain. He was released, assigned his own territory, had a wife, had a child, had a life. He seems to have gotten away from all the retaliation. Yet without himself knowing, everything has already been arranged to go wrong. Was the territory actually his? No. At Flaming Mountains, nothing grows without the help of Rakshasi and her plantain fan. His presence there simply is not essential. Was the marriage his? Not really. He was appointed a wife for the purpose of a pure political conspiracy by Lord Laozi. It was less of a choice than a settlement for both the bull and the Rakshasi. Was his family actually his? No. All his personal life was under the monitoring of Lord Laozi through the keeper. He even had no reason to actually come home. Was Red Boy his son? Well, it depends on the aspect you want to see then. Red Boy was born when Rakshasi was appointed to drink the water from the river of childbearing, along with the soul of the child of the Yaksha king, so she could bear the son of the Yaksha king. So biologically, no, Red Boy is not his son. Meanwhile, you can also see in the game that the Bull King and the Rakshasi definitely viewed him as a son. Both tried their best to keep him out of any dangerous way, and this is where the tragic vulnerability lies for the couple. The Bull King's biggest mistake was his false sense of control. The sad part is that he did not even ever believe he was ever in control. His belief was that as long as he submits to the power, his family will be safe. He is Wukong, in a parallel universe where every choice made was the opposite. As their paths split after the havoc in heaven, Wukong was imprisoned, he was let go. Wukong was released to go on to the journey to enlightenment. He chose to settle for the heavens' arrangements. During the journey, Wukong learned that the Yaoguai's only path should be to find the master and serve. The bull stayed outside the system and lived only for his family. Now after the journey, Wukong wanted to settle back to Mount Huaguo. The bull then decided to come out and fight him. He completely overlooked the absolute power that has led to all his forced hands. If you're not born to be one of them, all your choices will be forced, and nobody will care for your life's decline. Not only has he been a pawn, he is a pawn that has been sidelined. He's a sidelined pawn with vulnerabilities. By trying to keep what matters to him out of harm's way, he's pushed every single one of them into the mix of all these upper powers games without any chance to refuse. He was the image of what Wukong was not. He did his best to bow down to everyone that ran him over to save everyone he cared for. He showed that he is not Wukong, he will submit. Yet the issue has always been, let it be the Celestial Court or the Western Paradise, while a revolution means certain death, submission has never guaranteed safety. Now that you may ask, so that's it then? Wukong failed, and all inspired approaches failed? What is the point of the story this game is trying to convey then? That all is in vain? Is the current order set up by the heavens simply an imbalanced power trip? Be patient with me, we'll get there one day. Hopefully this all makes sense. I will continue to explore the related lores of Black Myth Wukong. If you like this format, please like and subscribe, and comment down below if there's anything else you want to see elaborated in this story, and I will do the research for you. Thank you for deciding to spend the time for this video. Until next time, bye!